Hey everybody, Tim Norris here, aka GreyElephant.
And Carmen Norris.
And welcome to a quick review by GreyElephant Gaming. Now today, we're going to be talking about...
Versailles.
Yes! And this was sent to us by Passport Game Studio and NSKN Games. Now, the purpose of this video is to give our opinion quick and to the point, but what should they do if they want to know more about this game?
If you want to know more, you should watch our live play, where the entire game is played out in real time.
Was there any fake or artificial time involved in the making of that?
No.
No, it's 100% real, baby. So we write up all our points here, kind of like news reporters, to make sure we don't miss anything. So, you ready to go?
Let's get going.
Let's do this thing. So I am first, and I will start by saying this game has all of the basics of a worker placement game. You send out your workers to gather up resources, depending on how many workers there are. Depends on how many resources you're going to gather. Spend those resources on decorations and tiles to score VP. Bam, that's it, right?
I've got lots of worker placement games. Why would I play this? Because it's not just a worker placement game. It is worker movement. So
we should call it a worker displacement game.
A worker displacement game. That gives it, you know, a new twist, makes it different than your other worker placement games, but it's not so difficult as, say, Trojan, where you're moving stuff around, so it's more of an introductory worker movement game. Now, your workers always stay on the board, which could cause some confusion if there wasn't an activation token. So, you're given an activation token. Each time you take an action, you put it there. This is just to keep you from taking that action twice in a row. That's all it does. We had some confusion about it. Just keep that in mind. It was totally him.
So you're going to have, basically, the main way you're going to score points is in the construction yard. Okay, and you're going to have tiles that you're going to obtain, and these tiles are going to either require workers, resources, or decorations, or even a combination of all three to be able to place. Some of the tiles are going to be simple to place, but they're not going to really give you much return in VP, whereas some of them are going to be very difficult to place, but yet the return is going to be fabulous.
So this is one of the decisions that you have to make. You can only hold 4 tiles, so which ones are you going to go for? There is a possibility that you will not be able to place a tile if your opponent hedges you out before you get all the resources you need. So, keep in mind though, the resources, tiles, and decorations will score you points at the end of the game, so they're not a complete loss.
No, not at all. And one thing I really love about this game, and I think it's really cool and clever, is the tech. You can upgrade your workers so that whenever they gather resources, they gather more resources. Or you could even activate them on your opponent's turn.
This is the Alchemist Guild, I believe.
Alchemist.
The game can end by running out of tiles, by the king advancing to the end of his track, or by completely filling the construction area. We have found that usually in our games the construction area cannot be completed, and the last few rounds of the game consist of gobbling up resources while you're trying to get the king to move or trying to get rid of all the tiles.
Well, overall, my concluding thoughts. Overall, I would still consider this a good, lightweight Euro-style game. I think it's an introductory style worker placement game. No real heavy decisions, but that doesn't mean it's a bad game. It's just one of those ones where it's just kind of simple, you know, kind of like Stone Age, really. But I think it's less complicated to teach and play than even Stone Age. And plus, it doesn't have the luck factor like Stone Age, so there's no dice. I mean, when you go for something, you're going to get it. You know, and I do like that. I like the fact that I don't have the luck involved personally, because how many times have we went to Stone Age to collect the wood and we're like, I got 4 guys there, 1 piece of wood. Yeah, that's fair. You know, what were the other 3 guys sleeping? What was the deal with that? I love the tech. I love upgrading the workers. I think that is a really cool and clever idea. I like how the workers kind of rotate around the board. I think that works just fine. And I like the fact that it's kind of like a racing game in a sense. Not because you're racing around the board, but because you want to try to place your tiles before your opponent. You know, if you've got a tile that's going to score you, say, like, 14, 16 points, it requires an awful lot to place it. And your opponent can be trying to plop down all these little cheap tiles and try to hedge you out so that you can't place yours, and that's frustrating. So you want to try to be fast about trying to place. One thing that I don't think works well with this game is I don't think it works well as a 2-player game. I think it needs more players. And the reason is because the king never really becomes a factor in a 2-player game. And like Carmen was touching on, this becomes an issue because if you can't finish the construction, then that means the game has to end one of other 2 ways. It has to end by running out of tiles, or actually 7 or less tiles, or the king has to make it to the end of the track. Well, in a 2-player game, I don't really even believe you can run out of tiles, so it all just comes down to the king. So basically what it ends up being at the end game is that you're going around just gobbling up resources, buying up all the decorations, so that you can score as many end-game points as you possibly can. And, you know, okay, we're all bored of this, let's hurry up, just get the king then, we'll just see who won. That's not a cool way to end the game, but that's only a factor with 2 players, and with more players, it will not become a factor in my opinion. You are limited to only being allowed to have 4 building tiles in your tableau at any time, and I really think that you should be limited on how many decoration tiles you're allowed as well, because one player could go around and gobble up all them decoration tiles, and they do score you 3 points at the end of the game per decoration, and like you said, they're not 100% balanced. You know, this one only cost me a couple pieces of wood, but this one cost me like 3 stone and a gold. That doesn't make sense.
And they're both worth 3 points at the end of the game.
And they're worth 3 points. That doesn't make sense.
You can gobble them up and keep your opponents from building the tiles that require them.
But I still think this is a good, like I said, introductory Euro-style game, lightweight, easy to teach, easy to play.
Okay, well, I think you're going to know that I'm going to say it needs some rules tweaking. You know, obviously we already talked about the decorations. You know, there really needs to be a limit to that. But let me start out by saying I really like the fact that you're moving workers instead of placing them. This is more of an introductory to that concept, I think, and I feel that it does work well in this game, and it's something that I enjoy playing. I enjoy the tech track and the different choices that I have throughout the game, and I just kind of like tile placement too, so it's kind of nice that
that's... We love Carcassonne.
Yeah, that's another one of the little mechanics in the game, so I think it's fun. But what doesn't work well for me is the way the game ends. We found that it works better if we try to cooperate in order to complete the garden, which is what you probably saw us do in the live play. But that's not always, I mean, it's not a cooperative game.
That's not the way the game's designed to really be played.
It's not a cooperative game, so let's face it, if you want to win, you're going to hedge your opponent out, and that middle is never going to be completed, and then whoever gobbles up decorations and resources ends up winning. We've had games where, one of us had the game won if it came down to who built the most tiles. But, you know, then the game keeps going on, and then the other person gobbles up a bunch of resources and wins the game that way. And that just doesn't seem very thematic to me.
I'm sensing sour grapes here.
Well, not only does it not seem thematic, but, you know, gobbling up resources for the last who knows how many rounds. It seems like half the game consists of that.
It does get redundant and boring, I agree.
It gets redundant and boring, exactly.
Yeah.
Every decoration, like he said, scores you 3 points at the end of the game, no matter which one it is. That's a little lopsided. That could, the rule for that could be tweaked a little bit. And then I think that perhaps since we were having trouble with a 2-player game, that maybe something else needs to be tweaked. Like the king should start further along on the track.
Good idea.
So that it would end sooner. Or,
and then it does become a factor in a 2-player game.
Yes. Yeah. Or maybe there should be less tiles. Now you can't just take tiles out. That wouldn't work. The publisher would have needed
to label them.
To label them so that you can say, okay, these tiles are for a 2-player game, these are for a 3-player game. So that the game would end a little sooner.
That's a good idea, too.
So overall, you know, the game is enjoyable until the last tile can't be placed. Yeah. After that, the end game kind of ruins it.
So let me ask you this, just real quick.
I just think that with some tweaking of the rules, I would enjoy the game.
If you are able to finish the construction yard, and that's the way the game ends, how would you rate it?
I would say I would highly recommend it if that were the case.
Okay, so as long as you can finish the construction yard and it doesn't end with that wonky going around and grabbing the decorations and the resources, you like it, but whenever you and I ran into that, we can't finish it.
It's the end game that is the problem, and really the live play is the only game we played where that was not the
No, we had another one. Yeah, because remember, our first 2 games, we never could finish it, and then after that, we worked together.
More times than not, we do not finish the construction yard, so it ends with that wonky going around the resources.
All around the barn,
which is boring.
Yeah, so there you go. That's our opinions on it, but you know what you guys should do to be able to get a real feel for the game. You need to
watch our live play.
That's going to really tell you more than we could ever sit here and explain to you. And as usual, we appreciate you watching. Bye-bye.